Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a pretty powerful spiritual idea called soul ties. You know that feeling when you have a connection with someone that just feels deeper than normal? Well, we're going to break down a sermon that explains what these ties are, how they get started, and the huge impact they can have on your life.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with the biggest question: what exactly is a soul tie? Is it just a nice way of saying you have a really strong emotional bond with someone, or is it something else entirely?
Well, according to the sermon we're looking at, this goes way beyond psychology. A soul tie is described as a literal, spiritual link, like a real connection that actually exists in the spiritual realm and, binds two souls together.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Not all soul ties are created equal. The source material makes it super clear that these connections can go one of two ways. They can either be a massive benefit to you, or they can cause some serious disruption in your life. It's a fundamental split that we're going to dig into right now.
So this split is broken down into what the sermon calls godly and ungodly ties, two totally different sides of the same coin.
I mean, look at how clear this distinction is. On one hand, you've got your godly ties. These are the positive ones, the good ones, that come from relationships that are considered spiritually sanctioned. Think marriage or really close family bonds. But on the other hand, you have the ungodly ties, and these are the ones that cause all the trouble, coming from actions that fall outside of those principles.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? The sermon gives some really specific examples for both types, which definitely helps make this whole idea a lot less abstract.
So first up, the godly ties. The source points to what it sees as the most foundational relationships we have. The bond between a husband and wife, that deep instant connection a mother has with her baby, or the relationship between a father and his son. These are all framed as natural, positive, and spiritually good for you.
Now, on the flip side, the sermon gets really specific about the sources of ungodly ties, and it really hones in on two big areas: sex outside of marriage and any kind of relationship that's built on an unhealthy level of control.
And this is a really crucial point. In this view, sex outside of marriage isn't just a physical act. No, it's described as a spiritual transaction. The idea is that something is literally exchanged on a soul level, and that exchange creates a very powerful, and in this context, very negative, spiritual connection.
And get this quote: it really shows you just how serious the source takes these controlling relationships. When talking about a parent who just won't let go of their adult child, it says that behavior, quote, is witchcraft if you don't stop. Wow. I mean, that's incredibly strong language, right? It's used to hammer home just how destructive that kind of bond is believed to be. But the idea doesn't stop there. The sermon then suggests that these negative ties don't just mess with the two people involved. They can actually create patterns that ripple down through an entire family for generations.
And this is a massive concept. The argument is that an ungodly tie created by an ancestor, maybe through something like stealing, can set up a negative spiritual pattern. And that pattern, which the source straight up calls a curse, can then travel down the bloodline, affecting people who had absolutely nothing to do with what happened way back when.
So to make this crystal clear, the sermon lays out a story. Picture this: a great-great-grandfather steals land from somebody. That one act, generations ago, creates a spiritual pattern of loss in his family. Now, fast forward to today. His great-great-grandchild is successful, makes a bunch of money, and then boom, for no logical reason, loses it all. And it keeps happening. According to this teaching, that's the generational curse at work, and that cycle will just keep repeating until that original spiritual tie is finally broken.
So you hear all that, and you have to wonder, right? If these negative lies are real and can cause so much damage, what are you supposed to do? Are you just stuck with them, whether they're from your own life or from an ancestor you never even met? Well, the message here is actually one of hope. It's that, yeah, these ungodly soul ties are powerful, for sure. But, and this is a big but, they are not a life sentence. They can absolutely be broken. It just takes a very conscious and deliberate effort.
And the big takeaway is that breaking them is an active process. It's presented as a spiritual battle. It all starts with awareness. You have to recognize that the negative connection is even there. Then, it takes persistence. This isn't a one-and-done kind of prayer. The source says you have to keep fighting in the spiritual realm. It calls it focused spiritual warfare, to finally cut that tie for good.
So at the end of the day, this whole explainer on soul ties really leaves us with a pretty profound question to chew on.
It kind of pushes you to look at your own life, your own relationships and patterns, and just ask, what are the unseen connections, good and bad, that might be shaping my own story?